The last one we had 5,000 people watching live, and then it grew to I think it was like 8,000 at some point, either just right after. So a little nerve-wracking because I'm used to actually having an audience, and now I'm just kind of speaking to a mirror image of myself. So I'm glad you guys are out there and tuning in, and welcome to the home of all things RWA. So everything. Yesterday, a big piece of news. Masari tweeted that Mavryk is, I think it was like the #1 in the DeFi heading for engagement. So keep yapping. I'm going to try and pull up the tweet right here. Actually, I should have pulled this up earlier. And yeah, it's actually really exciting that we're up there. It was really incredible to see that just organically pop up on my feed at like, I don't know, 12:30 at night or something. So keep that up, and really proud of you guys, because it's one thing to build tech, it's another thing if no one knows about you or if no one uses you. And so yeah, that's pretty exciting. I got it right here. I'll show it to you now. Share screen. There we go. Yeah. So Mavryk Network leads 1 week DeFi mindshare in anticipation for upcoming TGE on September 18th. So keep yapping. The entire leaderboard is open. It keeps changing. People are going back and forth. But I mean, we're up there with Wealthfi. I mean, is it Wealth1, Wealthfi? Please comment and let me know, because everything just is abbreviated like crazy. And then, of course, there's Hype, there's Pump, there's which is interestingly up there. So yeah, I mean, Mavryk's up there. Honestly, actually, we're above Wealthfi. So a lot to say about that, and a lot of jokes to say about that, but I'll keep it on the DL for when you guys are in Dubai for some beers. So moving on, let me just get back to my rhythm here. I wanted to show you guys an overview of Mavryk, and it's back to sharing the screen button. That's not working. No. It is not here. Hold on 1 second, guys. I don't know why it's not. Technical errors, issues. Don't trust tech. I'm kidding. Trust tech. Going to share my screen. There we go. And there it is. So, part of what we're doing here is like building the real world on Mavryk. And what I like to say about this is that, we've got the L1 on testnet now. There's the testnet native token called Mavryk, the MVRK token. We've got real estate partnerships for $10+ billion with RWAs from MAG and Multibank, and I'll be diving into that on this session today. We've got a Fireblocks MPC wallet integration, as we had mentioned. We'll dive into that a little bit more today too. Something that I'm not sure if you guys have seen in our social media, but the Web3 Unleashed competition part 2, we were the 3rd place winner. It was hosted by Bybit and DMCC last year. They're now taking actually applications for Unleashed 3 coming up soon. So keep in mind, keep a lookout for that in the UAE for some of the most interesting startups that are building. That being said, we've got the Mavryk Nexus, as I've showed you last week or earlier this week, which is a block explorer and everything to really touch and feel and play with Mavryk. As an economy, right? You have to interact with the network. It's in the Nexus. The Mavryk wallet, of course, is where you store all of your assets. Maven being the DeFi bank, we'll dive into that. Maven has its own MVN token as it's built as a fully on-chain DAO-based banking system, and we'll do a deep dive into that into another Mavryk live as well. The UK-based, Verseprop. Wow, I haven't heard. We haven't marketed them in quite a while. But yeah, UK-based RWA bond receipts, so basically home equity line loans. We're gonna have a perp dex that comes out down the line, a prediction market, God willing, and synthetic asset. This one's my favorite one. This one will actually probably be first out of the 3. But the RWA ETF minter, I'd love to. I mean, it's not on the schedule to go into it, but I will. Long story short, imagine if you had 1,000 RWAs on chain and you wanted to create your own RWA platforms. RWA ETF, right? You take you take 10 hotel tokens in Western Europe and you bundle them together in one smart contract vault, and that smart contract vault pumps out a token backed by those 10 RWA tokens in Western Europe, and that's now your Western European RWA ETF. So that's actually something that I'm probably extremely excited for, because it brings about it brings about bespoke finance and just all sorts of different things where you might be someone in like a not in the US, and you have your great analytical mind and you can put together a portfolio, and someone else can fund that portfolio, and then you guys share the revenue streams that come off it as people buy your ETFs. It creates what I called bespoke finance. That's my most favorite thing about that. And Mavryk in and of itself, we're an RWA focused chain, full stack, as I mentioned last time in the brief. So basically we've created everything from there's the layer one, there's the wallet obviously, and then there's the launchpad, AMM, order book, OTC DEX, and lending, and that's why I like to call it a full stack RWA ecosystem. And so it's a liquid proof of stake chain, 8,000 TPS on mainnet. It's going to be, obviously gas fees change and they move, etc., but they're extremely low gas fees. That's something that's pretty common across POS chains now. Dynamic inflation rewards. So actually the inflation rewards on chain are based on how much stake people lock up or delegate on the network. And so that actually is extremely dynamic. It changes to hit a target rate. We can get into that in another episode. The transaction fees, and this is where we start getting down into the nitty gritty of the economy of things, where we're burning 50% of transaction fees on Mavryk, 25% flow into the on-chain protocol treasury, and we'll do another also deep dive into what the protocol treasury and liquidity mining are. We had some great questions from Matt Vincent, who decided to not read our materials, but then to ask questions. Just to call that out. But yeah, so 50% being burned, 25% going to the on-chain treasury, and then 25% going to validators. And that on-chain RWA matching engine is part of that order book DEX that we built. The 4 RWA DEXs I touched upon: Proactive Market Maker, Order Book, and decentralized oracles, which are also from Maven as well. And so just to get onto tokenizing the future and what could be tokenized, you're looking at real estate and land. Again, yield-bearing assets. If you see most of the stuff here are yield-bearing assets. They will be the low-hanging fruit. I'll start with those. So real estate and land, stocks and securities, music, film, and royalties, bonds and insurance linked securities. Those are really interesting because you're buying risk. So everybody pays their car insurance no matter what NASDAQ does that day. So that's a really interesting one. Currencies we already have: USDT, USDC, tokenized euros. No, sorry, those are crickets from the lack of transactions on tokenized euros. And then commodities, which again, it's all about yield-bearing assets. Commodities have a cost of carry, so I don't think they're going to be low-hanging fruit. Art antiquities to a degree, maybe. We'll see how that goes. And then IP can be tokenized, but well, that being said, with IP tokenized, this is the founder and CEO, and I'm now resigning. Sorry, that was a little bit of an inside joke if you're following what happened last 2 weeks ago in the blockchain space. Just kidding, not resigning, seeing this to fruition. Like I said, prime customer for our own products. So diving into, the big deals, a lot of people ask, why a new chain? Why are you building Mavryk? What, besides for just building Mavryk as an ecosystem, why a new chain? What are you building? So let me just hop over to this next tab. Share this tab instead. Well, the problem, right? So when it comes down to, you get fragmentation across RWA, the industry of it, you get terrible user experience, and then you've got regulatory oversight that's hampered interoperability, obviously, retail onboarding, and accessibility. So that impedes growth and adoption of the RWA ecosystem. So, when you have, I think one of the biggest things really is, well, just to kind of, I'll get to it, but fragmentation. So you've got, right now as it kind of stands, you've got a company that does issuance, you've got a company that does the digitization of the tokenization, the actual token tech part of issuance, not the regulatory part of issuance. Then you've got a company that might do the primary listing. You've got next to no one who's got secondary markets, very few. And then lending, which is few and far between in terms of RWAs. There's RWA lending. The biggest RWA lender, the RWAs aren't actually on chain. So figure that one out if you can. So basically they operate in, they end up, all the companies operate in silos, and you don't have a holistic approach. Like I said, I've had guys who were like, listen, we're going to send you a contract, please print, sign it, scan it, and send it back to us. One of them asked me for my fax number. if you remember fax machines. So when that happens, you really need to hold their hand and walk them through things. And so you need to have a holistic approach, like a one-stop shop to a degree, that can handle the tokenization of assets and the full scope, the full lifeline of tokenization, not just one element of it. So then that leads effectively to lackluster product market fit and a terrible consumer experience. And I don't want to like kind of rag on other RWA platforms out there, but it's still very difficult. My parents can't go buy RWAs today easily. There's no good consumer app for it. It is a it's still extremely nascent. And so a rising tide raises all ships. I wish everyone succeeds. But we do have a lot of work to make it better. And that's why, Mavryk steps in to fill that gap. And then last but not least, compliance. Because back in the day, if you remember security token offerings, which kind of died a miserable death. And now we've rebirthed RWAs, and RWAs have come into a period of time where there's more regulatory clarity on how to do this. We do need revised securities laws. We do need to take into account that securities laws shouldn't be based on close to 100-year-old law. Tech changes things. We're currently regulating assets the same way that we would regulate cars according to the rules of horses and buggies. It doesn't really make sense to tie, a rope around my rear view mirror and then tie it to the parking lot meter where you put your quarters. Compliance plays a big deal, both in terms of how the industry understands compliance, but also how the platforms understand compliance. If I had $1 for every single time I've heard a startup say, well, we tokenize this house as an NFT and therefore it's not a security, or we don't have to follow any form of regulatory laws. Well, to be fair, if I had $1 for that, I'd probably have a lot of Bitcoin at this point. So moving on. So like I said, your all-in-one tokenization solution, and I didn't share the tab. There it is. So, like I said, we've built stuff for primary and secondary markets. So you've got the automated market maker, OTC, the what we call the launch pad, which is the first time it goes on sale to the public as kind of like an RWA PO, an RWA public offering, so to say. And then that which then brings liquidity and yields, because you can have an order book, you can have an AMM, and you have again, a common misconception about RWAs does not mean there's going to be liquidity like Bitcoin, but there will be increased liquidity from what that RWA is. It unlocks liquidity or additional liquidity or ability to put additional liquidity. So, and then of course yields, and we've been talking about this a lot. I'm extremely excited for this. I want a diversified portfolio of assets, or even bespoke ETF tokens that will then pay yields to my non-custodial wallet monthly, daily, quarterly, etc. And it was actually really interesting. The CEO of Robinhood, I really need to retweet this. The CEO of Robinhood came out and said that the future of effectively economies and life, in a way, will be managing your investments. And I've said this actually a long time ago in a Twitter space. I should find the quote, because I think you've got these so on a tangent right now, but you've got people are trying to say universal basic income, and we need to pay everyone because robots are going to take over the world. Well, robots may take over the world, but I do think that RWAs will end up helping that future that the CEO of Robinhood brought up, or the founder of Robinhood, where you manage a portfolio of assets, and how you manage life will become a game of Monopoly, and kind of like Mavopoly. So we're just kind of getting you ready for it with getting early access to the new world. So and automated settlement, of course, right? Everything, I'm diving back into this, everything settles on chain effectively instantly, as opposed to waiting 30 days for settlement and clearing. Now that being said, the markets with limit orders, you could see the image in the middle, the advanced order book trading, it's fully non-custodial. Everything we built is fully on-chain, non-custodial, including the wallet integration with Fireblocks for the multi-bank RWA platform, and peer-to-peer trade. So it's effectively a user interacting, or an investor interacting with the smart contract to buy from another investor, and at no point can multi-bank RWA or Mavryk kind of intercept your transaction. Can they do anything on buying in and out of the smart contract book? We do have the MRC30 token does have embedded KYC and non-embedded KYC versions, and so obviously according to which regulatory regime you have to follow certain regulatory types, but the point being is you interact with a smart contract, it's fully non-custodial in that manner. RWA lending, and this is where it gets really interesting because I think this is the first time I'm making this photo public, but that is the revised Maven Vault that is built into the front end of Equiteez. So because everything we built are protocols, you get to have built-in interoperability between protocols, and you've got automated lending on your RWAs. Down the line, we've architected mortgages already, so that will be really cool. Decentralized finance, which is the the whole shebang of what we're building, and it's ecosystem ready. We've got the whole ecosystem that's about to move forward. So you may or may not have seen this next image on Multibank's RWA platform. So Multibank's RWA is built on top of Equiteez's infrastructure. So we've got automated, like with order books, it'll be in the deployment. But we've got you can see this image actually on Multibank's Twitter, and you're going to be able to go into Multibank.io and actually, send fiat over there. They're regulated in like 17 jurisdictions and allows operations in like 153 countries, I think. So as long as you're not in like North Korea or Iran or, I was going to make a joke about some of the other countries, but I'll skip out on that one. But yeah, eventually we'll get this over to Americans. You guys are in the same boat as North Koreans, so what can I say? But you can then go in and you have increased liquidity, yields, automated settlements. It's the same things that you saw before, but now you get a little bit of maybe I can zoom in here if it'll show you, a little bit of leaked alpha on how this will look for buying the RWA tokens. You can buy MBG there, you can buy Mavryk there, you can buy RWA there, and you can actually create different wallets. This is a non-custodial wallet that's going to be in the platform, and I can't show you more until we do this with Multibank, but this is already public and you can go check it out yourself on their Twitter. Going on to talk about our, the huge deal that everyone's kind of losing their minds over, and for good things, the $3 billion that scales to $10 billion deal with MAG, Multibank, and Mavryk. And the reason let's just dive into what makes this different. You typically get a layer one who pays a company to deploy on their chain in some capacity. The problem is that, again, these property developers, these asset managers, they don't have the technology for actually conducting tokenization. So again, you get this fragmentation that I was talking about before. So you've got this company that does A for them, and B and C and D, and all of a sudden they need to open up a RWA division within the development company, and they have no clue kind of what's going on. So you need to hold their hand through the process, and it's effectively a case of too many cooks in the same kitchen. So the interesting thing, as our CMO likes to call the quadfecta, which this was an interesting conversation we had. Was it two dilemmas? Was it a quadlemma? Was it a quadfecta? Was it four lemmas? We had to figure this out. That we were like going back and forth on how we got to solving the quadfecta. But you basically needed tech, you needed the assets, you need the regulatory element put together, and you also need distribution. It's not enough to just tokenize an asset. Because effectively, if you just do something if you just tokenize an asset, but you don't have secondary markets and you don't have lending, then what you end up having is digitization with extra steps. And so what we did in solving all that is we built the secondary markets, we built the lending, and that's all on the Mavryk side. The tech stack, full stack of what I said about what Mavryk brings to the table. We've got Mag on board, who's got billions upon billions in assets. Real estate is just one part of Mag's assets. It's actually the Mag group. They've got shipping, they've got manufacturing, they've got production. The lifestyle side is their real estate sector. So Couture Reserve, Ritz-Carlton, etc., coming onto Mavryk. And then Multibank, who again regulated up the wazoo, so you're clear on that, which is wonderful. And then also the distribution. Distribution is the most important part. How do you buy some of these assets? How do you interact with getting access to these things? And that is distribution. Again, it doesn't matter if you tokenize the world if you can't sell it to somebody. So all of this tokenization that you see out there, where it's like, oh, we've tokenized $100 billion worth of stuff. Okay, but can I buy it? Can I trade it? Can I borrow against it? I mean, it's something that it's like, great, you digitized it, thanks. You still have not given us any access to anything. So this is solving that quadfecta of the problems in the industry. And moving on, that brings us to, it's one thing to tokenize it, it's one thing to trade it. It's one thing to borrow against it, but what about security? So we're integrating with Fireblocks for native MPC embedded wallets. What does that mean? When you log in and create an MBIO RWA account, you effectively in the background, it's a Fireblocks embedded wallet. So it's embedded into the platform. You don't look or feel or touch or see a wallet in the same way that you think it's a browser wallet. You can always withdraw your assets to a browser wallet, but it just looks and feels like a regular exchange. It's got all the user friendliness of a centralized exchange, all the security of a decentralized exchange, because it's all based on smart contracts, all non-custodial. And as I said before, the Mavryk and the multi-bank RWA platform is going to be the best sex of your life. So I keep using that quote. I just hope I don't is that HR? No, I'm kidding. Moving on from Fireblocks. Actually, that was our last slide for today. We're hitting up the 26-minute mark, and I think it's time we go to questions. Marketing team, questions? Waiting. While we wait for some questions, yeah, I think it's really interesting when it has, with Fireblocks, is because they're really the gateway to institutional adoption. Because again, a lot of times people don't understand their like how to use wallets, how to gain access to things, etc. And if you're moving hundreds of millions of dollars on chain, the regular world will not allow, or not, let's say, they won't accept the types of losses that okay, thanks guys. Not sure if that's on the screen. They won't accept the type of losses that the crypto world sees with Solidity or the EVM world, all the different hacks that happen, bridges, etc. So it's really important, or people phishing your wallet, it's really important that there's institutional security for RWAs, and that's what Fireblocks brings to the table. So without further ado, we're getting close to the 30-minute mark. It is Thursday evening here in Dubai. Keep yapping. Follow us on social media, so whether that's Discord, Telegram, Twitter, tweet at us, talk to us. I'm here to answer any questions, or answer any FUD. That was always fun to put out the fires on with clarity. And my name is Alex Davis. I'm the founder of Mavryk, TGE in September 18th. Thank you all for showing up, and remember, think different, be Mavryk.